Welcome in. I am your professor for the day, the Wild Ute, and we've got a special session, class session on the docket today, looking at the ACC viewership, and specifically who in the ACC is a sigma, an alpha, and of course the betas, the little betas, and everything as far as viewership goes. So what we're doing today, we're going to take a look at the 2024 viewership performance of each of the ACC schools, all 17 of them, not including Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not an ACC football member. And we're going to see how they stack up. We're going to put it in perspective. We're going to assign tiers to them: sigma, alpha, beta. Let's jump into it. Check it out. Class is in session. All right, let's go to the sigma tier. Let's just jump right into it here. So our sigmas, we've got 4 sigmas for the 2024 football season. And the most sigma of all is the Miami Hurricanes. Look at the Miami Hurricanes. Number 1 in the ACC in viewership. That is 2.24 million viewers per game on average. And that is based on Nielsen-rated games per Sports Watch Media. So pretty good number for the Canes. Better than the historical numbers over the last several years, over 2 million. We know that. Cam Ward, Damian Martinez, and that offense was explosive this year. Man, they performed well, though. 2.24 is tops in the ACC in 2024. Give it to those Miami Hurricanes. But number 2 in the Sigma list, number 2 is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, this shocked me to see this. Historically, Georgia Tech has not been a Sigma tier viewership team in football, not at all. But this year they were, largely driven by 2 football games, though. The first game of the season versus Florida State, that was a primetime matchup. And then the last game of the season versus the Georgia Bulldogs that put in almost 8 million viewers. So Georgia Tech comes in number 2 in the Sigma tier at 1.89 million viewers on average per game. And then here we go. 2 of the common sigmas that we always see in the ACC basically any given year, and that's the Clemson Tigers and the Florida State Seminoles. Clemson in the 3rd spot, Florida State in the 4th, almost at 1.7 and 1.64 approximate viewers on average per game. Really the Seminoles, let's talk about the Seminoles. The Seminoles, when 2 games is football season, 2 freaking games all season long, they still put up one of the best ACC TV viewership numbers. That's a brand, y'all. That is a brand. They were on TV quite a bit, despite them not being any good this year. But, man, that brand shows out. Last year, they were number 1, and they still showed out with 1.64. So here are your sigmas: the Miami Hurricanes, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, the Clemson Tigers, and also the Florida State Seminoles. Now, let's go to the alpha tier. Let's take a look at the drop here. So we moved from about 1.64 million viewers on average per game to the alpha. So we're looking at around 500,000 to around 730,000 viewers per game. You headed out with Louisville, followed by Virginia Tech, Boston College, NC State, and Pitt. So these are kind of your mids, your alphas, if you want to call them that. Look, I mean, okay, viewership. Frankly, Louisville put up decent viewership, not great. They've had better years in the past. But this 730,000 viewers per game is okay. Virginia Tech, 610 viewers per game. Okay. Boston College maybe performed a little bit better than historically. Pitt was on TV a bunch. We're going to get into that in a second. Not great. Honestly, NC State wasn't nearly as good this year as we thought they'd be. So these are alphas, right? Okay, mids. Mids, that's fine. Kind of move on your way and everything. So in 5th position here, over all of the ACC viewership, Louisville, then you got Virginia Tech, Boston College, NC State, and Pitt, your alpha tiers, your alphas here. Now let's get into our betas. All right, let's look at this. There's a lot of betas in the ACC, y'all. It starts with Stanford and ends with Virginia. And we're looking at betas here that averaged less than 500,000 viewers per game based on the Nielsen-rated data. So Stanford comes in with about 480,000. Then Syracuse at 450,000. Cal, which was on a TV a lot, 370,000. Ouch. For being on TV so much, that is a really hard number right there to digest for the Cal Bears. Then you go to Duke, SMU, and SMU kind of as a big slap in the face for the ACC, y'all. SMU was on TV a bunch. SMU almost won the whole conference. Clemson won the ACC in 2024. SMU was right there till the end, played in some big-time football games. But here's reality. They are not a draw. They have a small fan base. They're not a draw. They're going to have to build this thing up over several years to get anything even probably in the alpha tier, let alone the sigma tier too. So 340,000 viewers per game for SMU. Rough. Then UNC, Wake Forest, and UVA. UNC's pretty disappointing too. From Mac Brown in there, we know he got released. He got cut, fired. Now Bill Belichick is now at UNC. That number, 330,000 number, should honestly triple, quadruple going into next year just based on the intrigue of Belichick, maybe even 10 times that number. Honestly, that is a pretty poor number. So you can see the betas and the ACC have low viewership, really, really rough. Worse than Big 12, lower viewership numbers, y'all. This is about the lowest in the power conferences that you're looking at right here. That's the beta tier here. So let's take a look-see now. And let's look at something that's often not discussed that much, okay? When we look at the viewership numbers, these are all based on Nielsen-rated games. Nielsen's a media company that does TV ratings. That will give you an estimated TV rating for a football game that is on TV. Well, the ACC network is not a Nielsen-rated channel, nor is a ESPN Plus. But a lot of these schools play on the ACC network, which gets functionally a 0 number because it doesn't report up to Nielsen. And that does make sense because the ACC network is not pulling big numbers for those games too. We're talking about paltry, small, dang numbers for any Nielsen, any game on the ACC network that could potentially be Nielsen rated. They're not, just because of the small numbers. But here, this tells you a little bit more about what the TV companies, like your ABCs, your ESPNs 2, and the ACC has a contract with ESPN, ABC, Disney. So these were the appearances for Nielsen-rated games, the biggest games of the year for each one of these schools. Not surprising that the bigger brands get on TV more. Miami had 10 Nielsen-rated game appearances. That means that they only had 2 games out of the 12 that were non-Nielsen-rated, maybe on the ACC network. Clemson had 10. Florida State had 9, again, after Florida State's brand, showing out Florida State's brand. Terrible year, but they're still on TV, primetime TV 9 times, guys. Huge. Pitt 8 times, Cal 8 times. That's a bit concerning. If you're a Pitt or Cal fan right there, when you were on TV in a Nielsen-rated platform 8 times, and then you put up pretty rough TV numbers, that is not a good look. Georgia Tech 7 times. Georgia Tech ended second overall in the ACC. Georgia Tech outperformed so much their expectations historically and everything. Of course, they had the big game versus Georgia and Florida State that boosted those numbers, but Georgia Tech is the darling, really, of this year, the TV viewership for the ACC. And SMU was on a bunch. They had poor numbers, rough performance by them. Louisville performed good, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, and so on, kind of more a marginal average type of viewership here. But the big ones to take away is Georgia Tech's outstanding performance, really Cal and SMU's really below average performance, and Pitt's kind of ho-hum performance as well. And of course, you got those Florida State Seminoles really showing out. The networks want to show them, guys. People want to watch them. If they're good or bad, that's a brand. That is a brand. So let's put it all together, and let's just look at one last graph here of all the ACC. Let's look at Miami again. We already saw their number from before, going all the way down to Virginia. Just look at that graph and how much it tails off from Florida State to Louisville. Really, you had 4 schools that were primarily driving all viewership for the ACC in 2024: Miami, Georgia Tech, Clemson, and Florida State. Look, Miami, Florida State, and Clemson are the big 3 brands of the ACC. They do it almost every single year, year in, year out. They are the brands. But Georgia Tech, kudos to you guys again. So look at that, the big drop off to Louisville, and then everybody else kind of tails off, and you get to Virginia with just that dreadful number at the very end here. But the big drivers, again, are those 4 schools for the ACC. Now, to look at everything, if you count all the viewers for Nielsen-rated games for the whole entire 17-team football conference that we're looking at, the ACC had 160 million TV viewers for the entire season. Some of that is double counted based on conference games, but nevertheless, it gives you some idea here. 160 million TV viewers. And here's something interesting. The Big 12 conference, we're not even going to compare these numbers with the Big 10 at the moment or the SEC. The Big 12, though, the true peer for the ACC, the Big 12 reported 198 million TV viewers overall in 2024 with 16 schools rather than 17. So the ACC significantly underperformed the Big 12 at 198 versus the ACC's 160 million total overall viewers. Wow, that's crazy stuff. So there you go. The ACC was largely driven by 4 schools, the viewership this year. Not great numbers overall compared to the Big 12. A lot of the brands like your SMUs that were on TV quite a bit didn't draw very good, but you got to accept these numbers. It is what it is. You really need, if you're the ACC, you need Florida State to be a really good team to drive your numbers, to lift them higher. You need Clemson to continue being good, Miami to be good too. Those 3 schools are going to drive ACC viewership for years to come. That's what you need if you're an ACC fan. So if you like this video, please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost to 5K subscribers. Jump. More of this good stuff coming out. More of these analytical videos. Then also leave a comment. Tell me what you think about the video. And, comments help with the YouTube algorithm. So let's get this video out to more people. Just leave any comment. I'll respond to them and everything. Let's have a dialogue about this. But hey, class is dismissed and Wild Ute is out.